The master grip. Take a picture where it dropped off.
I've got it. No one's
I actually looked at buy a laptop. I looked at buy a laptop, but anyway, but that's why it doesn't.
Really expensive one. I couldn't even believe it.
More than £100.
Brand new. It's a refill.
Can't get
Brand new.
laptop
It's like
for £1,500.
1,500 quid. It's a Dell workstation laptop. It's very, very expensive.
So tell the supplier that you've got to. You should go and pick it up. You're not going to pay. You're not going
No, I want to keep it. I like it. I'm going to return it.
I think so. Yes.
Sorry? No, not Jewish. Not Jewish.
Why not?
Why? Yeah.
Everybody tell me what good is it?
It was a post. Why do I have to return it?
That's security guy. Literally,
I'll
beat him over 1 meter sprint.
I had a test that came to the car park, and there's a car waiting to drive in. So I pulled up behind. No one's opening the gates. I got up and he was sitting in the booth. He was trying to open the gate. He said, "No, I can't open the gate." Why not? Because I'm not allowed to leave it open. So I said, "Okay, that's fine. So just open it and then close it, and then you haven't left it open." So he says to me, "Yeah, but what if I need to go to the toilet?" I said, "When you need to go to the toilet, don't leave it open."
Like, you've seen the guy downstairs now.
Not the same one.
Have you heard the one side
Not the old man.
I think you do have to return it. Why not? I think you do have to return it. I don't understand. Anyway, he's going to ask you for it back.
He's not asking me back. He's shipping these out in the thousands. The see as well. He's got them like.
I'll read out to the words of the Beis if you bring it to me one thing. But the Beis says that he never saw anybody succeed from relying on Torah's Akum.
Where is it?
Not now. We're actually 8:01. We're a minute late.
Do you not?
Good evening, Ben. Good evening.
According to you, I had a couple of years ago.
Get you on a game. The guy rocked up.
I got home and they only charged me. So you saying I should have gone back?
Ask your local Orthodox Rabbi. Ask him surface, see what he says.
Are you not Orthodox?
What?
Are you not Orthodox?
He's not local.
Right.
Halachically, you can keep it. There's nothing. No.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Just
But
one laptop
whether
you can drop off?
The Kiddush Hashem you'll make by returning it.
I
don't know. Will there be a condition? Will you even notice it's gone?
I don't know. I don't know the circumstances. Okay.
Definitely knows.
We're up to Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph Eini, which is 10 lines from the bottom, the middle of the line.
Like as if I know it. Yeah.
But did you not order it?
I didn't know.
Maybe your partner ordered it.
No one ordered it. I
Okay.
asked them for a quote yesterday for something else, and I said I want it, but they didn't pay for it. They didn't. I know, random.
Okay. We're up to Daf Kuf Aleph. I don't know what to say. Ask the Rob. We're up to Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph Eini. We're talking in the sugya of the halachas of Kiddush v'mokim Suda. Does one have to have Kiddush v'mokim Suda? I want to just point out. Rashi writes that he's makpid that from Kiddush till Moitzi Matzah takes no longer than 72 minutes. Why? Because he wants to have Kiddush b'mokim Su'udah. It's very, very fast. Oh, what?
What do you mean Magid is like?
Magid takes him less than 45, 50 minutes.
I think I'm going to take on that.
Yes, many people, the Beis Chaim asks the question, and he says that it is true that you're supposed to Kiddush as quickly as you can to the Su'udah. But since you're not allowed to eat the matzah until you said Magid, so it's like a very long washing your hands, which is all Kiddush B'mokim Suda, is part of preparing for the Su'udah. Rashi himself quotes this Beis Chaim. But Maisa, at the end of the day, he holds that one shouldn't rely on that, and rather one should try and get it within 72 minutes. So we had the Machleikas Rav and Shmuel, whether we should do Kiddush B'mokim Suda or not. The topic started off by people making Kiddush in Shul, where there's no Kiddush in. There's nobody eating there. They're only eating at home. Or the Yotzim. So Abaya told us, the last thing we learned yesterday, Abaya told us that Rabbi, his Rabbi, used to be machmir that Kiddush B'mokim Suda. He told them, the Talmidim, that when you go home, you're not going to be able to eat properly because the lights will go out. So therefore, make sure to have Kiddush B'mokim Suda elsewhere. So therefore, he said to him, "Ey Kiddush B'mokim Suda." So we see that Rabbi's machmir that you have to have Kiddush B'mokim Suda. Says what Eini, is it true that Rabbi's machmir you have to have Kiddush B'mokim Suda? Omar Abaya. Abaye says, "Kol mili demam." All the things on my Rabbi. Have Ovid Kirav, he did like Rav, Lebam Anitlas. He always passed like Rav. Rav against everybody, Rav passed like Rav. And Rav is the one that says you don't need Kiddush from Mokim Suda. Lebam Anitlas, there's only 3 times the Ovid Kishmor that Rav passed like Shmor. What are they? Matir Beged Lebeged. If you've got tzitzis on one clothes, and now you want to put this in another one, it's a machrikas whether you're allowed to take the tzitzis off one to put it on the other is a bezon and the chutim. So he says you are allowed to. On the Chanukah, you're allowed to light from one candle to the next.
Is it you want to get the strings off because the other baggage is no good? Or
That's right, because the beged is dirty or old.
Then it will be, why would be enjoying it?
Because the other beged will not have any tzitzis left on it. And when not having any tzitzis left on it, it's like a mezazel in the beged. Again, we've got a very nice sefer. He writes that this is the Mekur. This whole discussion take off the zuzas of somebody's house. That nowadays people may be machmir, as you said, sure. If something would be a skula, we'd all keep to it. So the point is that nowadays it's an halacha. There's the same shayla. Can you take the zuzas off a door or not? And lighting one candle to the next. You're allowed to pass like Shimon Begreyo that is pulling a bench. The time of Shimon Begreyo, you're allowed to drag a table, a bed, or a bench. What's the famous words that we use to describe Shimon's shitta? That the Tovash Einu Miskaven is mutter. That if you're not intending it is mutter. So therefore, except by psikvation, did you write it as osa, but that's not the ikka words. So we see that it doesn't hold like that. Answer more kechumid Rav Ovid, kekulid Rav Ovid. He did like the chumas of Rav, not like the kulas. And this is a kula of Rav that you don't Kiddush Maksud that we don't pass. The Rashbam asks a small question that we have a sugya that you shouldn't take people's chumas. One person's chumas, another person's chumas. That's a person being over machmir. So Rashbam says only when they contradict each other. Here they're not contradicting each other. You can take everybody's chumas. The Rashbam. Let's just see the Rashbam inside. It's very geschmack of Rashbam. It is umahocha shaminon because there's a lot of halachic Rashbams here. Have you got it? It is about halfway down in the wider lines. Umahocha shaminon derechas geshmor dein kiddush mokim suda. You have to kiddush mokim suda. V'amekadosh lechem chutz mibeis. And near ben Asher tzarich listed sham. Shafilu yisod sham yotzik deyosah ba'is dav mokim suda. It's not a din on the Mekadosh. I could go to your house, make Kiddush, not eat a thing, and you'll be able to Kiddush Mokum Suda if you eat. The fact that I never ate doesn't matter. It's not a chison in the Kiddush. It's a chison in the Su'udah. So if I make Kiddush for you and you eat, it's... It says, Rabbi Yehuda Afi de yain nami yotzu. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if you drink wine in one place, in shul, and then you go home, you do not need to make a new ber paragofen. V'az Rabbi Yehuda tamei Amar Chanu ba'abai Amar b'dos Rabbi Yehuda echod shinu yain topic of Aleph on base. Ve'echod shinu mokim ein sorich levorich. Rabbi Yehuda holds you do not need to make a new bracha, not for wine and not for shinu mokim. I just want to mention the Rashbam. Echod shinu yain. It's the bottom Rashbam on Kuf Aleph and Mud Aleph because this is something mentioned too by a native. Says the Rashbam. Echad Shnean, Tosfos actually brings this whole Rashbam word for word. Shevilu yain mechoves acheres v'yeshu time meshunay gerua meshubach ein tzad levorich shen sal yain. Avla teva meitiv nias mevorich im meshubach minovisha. If the second one is better, you have to make. Kedom minon ba'avoy omar v'yisam v'yich naf yishom shenyan ein tzad levorich av ima teva meitiv shenyan yan mechoves acheres. Kedom mevorich yisham pekei tzad kol chovis v'chovis shem peseach. Or mevorich halim make a new bocha for every bout. Umay mevorich v'mitzvah shem v'epi mevorich teva meitiv. Every bout make a teva meitiv. And Tosfos adds. Tosfos says like this. It's a two lines at the end of the bottom. So whether eating a meal or not. It's only if you're drinking wine with someone else. When we were younger, my father used to say to us, I don't let you drink wine. When we were 10, 12, he didn't let us have wine. But every so often, he'd bring a new wine onto the table and say, I want to make a teva meitiv. And I can't make a teva meitiv unless I share the wine. So I'm going to give you some wine in order that I should be able to be zech make a bocha teva meitiv. But dafke beyayin mevorchin if it's a zibur kamem with a mention so. So somebody asked the question, how do you know it's a better wine? How do you know if it's a better wine? Do you have to be a wine expert? I've got a cousin who's a bit of a wine expert. I told you about one of the Sheva bochas, they opened bottles of wine. Maybe we should do this for the siyum. A whiskey. Yishai, come on, Yishai. So anybody got a raya? What's in the better wine? Mr. Paul mentioned it very briefly. No, that's what we learned today.
Today.
I don't know, I was hoping maybe I did too fast. The Rashbam brings you a Shalmi that says every single barrel you make a new bracha. What bracha Tim I make? How did he make a new bracha on every barrel? What did he do? He arranged the barrels. This was a £10, £20, £30. Is that what he did? The answer is that as long as it's not a bad wine, it's considered a better wine.
Even though it's inferior to the one that you've just had.
No, as long as you don't know for definite this is inferior, it's considered superior. So then that's why every time you open a barrel, he didn't know if it was better or worse, made a new bracha.
Every time nowadays you bring a new bottle.
That's right. Every time you bring a new bottle, as long as it's not clearly worse, you make a tiva meta. Very good. That's very good.
But who decides what's what?
You could do more. You could do another one. Yeah, you can make another tiva meta.
But who
It's usually
decides?
the opposite. You start with the good wine on for it, then you slowly.
Why?
No, he said it doesn't matter. The more drunk you get, the cheaper you.
The Shabbat brings it. He says that you can still see in the shop. Again, it's you're right. You're going to value stuff you can't.
You
But
start with the best one, and then as you get more drunk, you get on to the cheaper one.
only if you know it is worse. Okay. Let's go weiter. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you do not need to make a new bracha from moving from place to place. And so let's say you eat an apple in this room, and then you go to the Beis, you don't need to make a new bracha if you want to have another apple. Because he holds there's no such thing as shinui mokim. Meisvei. Shinui mokim tzorich levorich. Shinui yain ein tzorich levorich. Tiyuvta davich tiyuvta, we do not pass on that kabir. Yosef itibar min kaved av chistiv Yosef chistiv kaman shpedov. They said like this. Ha dom shinui mokim tzorich levorich. They shonu beis lebeis. Avim mokim loy. That's only from room to room, but from one corner to another, you do not need to make a bracha. Okay, there's a brisa kevosich exactly like you. But Ravuna Masnita Kamashmalon, does Ravuna come to teach us a brisa? Ravuna Masnita Lishmiale never heard the brisa, so he was teaching us the halach of the brisa, which is what? That you need to make a bracha only if you go from room to room, not from corner to corner. I'll go back to it a bit, I just want to say a bit more. Yosef Av Chistav Kama Mishmeid Nafshik. When do you have to do bracha leon the dom shitei into the bracha lachareim bimkeimon? Well, you don't need to make a bracha achron about in its place. Adoma to the bracha lachareim bimkeimon. Somebody needs a bracha in its place. Ein tzarich levorich. You don't need to make a bracha. My tam lekiva kama hodam. Avsheish zoma echad zeh ve'echad zeh tzarich levorich. Always do need to make a bracha. Here we're opening up a whole very, very interesting topic. And for me, I found it interesting. It's just this afternoon I got a phone call about this question. We have two kinds of foods. We'll discuss in greater detail. Those which you have to make a bracha achroina in its place, and those that you don't. That means bread. If you have a slice of bread, and let's say, for example, you go off to the post office, you have to come back to make to bench. If you have a cup of water, you can just make one nefashos in the post office. So this afternoon, somebody called me up. He had gone to Whitefield for a business meeting, and he had eaten some cake, and he only remembered when he came back to Presswich that he hadn't made Ala Mechio, and he really could not be bothered going back to Whitefield. What should he do?
Make another bracha where he is.
Is that like Hatchila b'diavad? Actually, what you're saying is very good, I must say. I must admit, I did not know the halacha by heart. I had to look it up. And because of it, I ended up seeing other halachas, which is quite interesting, because it's got to a lot with this sugya. Let's go through stage by stage. I'll tell you the halacha. The halacha is, okay, I tell you, this is not halacha shir, so you should not rely on the halachas. It's more to be mo'ira, to keep in mind what you need to be mo'ira, but because I don't want to, but basically it has two heterim. One is machlokes rishonim, when he went by mistake, do you need to go back? One machlokes. Another machlokes is cake, something which requires a bracha after or not. There's a machlokes. Double machlokes is okay, you can make ala michya where he is, or as Shua said, eat cake in Presswich and make a new ala michya. Not always does it work. It depends if he's still hungry, if it's still chayav in the bracha from that cake. No, we won't need to make a new mazinis because kamilan. Okay, let's get this very clear, bit by bit. No, let's get it bit by bit. Let's go slowly by slowly. The first thing the Gemara says like this: we have a shittas abichnin that says, what? No, because no, he doesn't need to make a new bracha. Because let's go slowly. We're going to go through slowly. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if you drink wine in shul, you do not need to make a new bracha when you go home. Why not? What's Rabbi Yehuda's shitta? Right, ein tzarich levarich. That's a very good way of saying it. Key phrase. Shinu Mokoim ein Sorich Levorich. We passed in Shinu Mokoim, Sorich Levorich. In this machlokes, by the way, I should say a very, very nice thing, because as I was looking up that shaila, I saw beautiful from Shimon Zalman. I was very relieved that the halacha is that if you have das, when you're eating, let's say, an apple here, and you think to yourself, I'm going to eat in another room, then it's okay to carry on eating in another room, like chewing gum, where you know that you're going to continue eating it in another place, it's okay. The Shimon Zalman writes that nowadays, we don't really sit at our tables properly. And any time you start a food, it's as if you had clear mind to eat elsewhere. It's a beautiful heta, which was nice to find the heta. No, in the house, only in the house. I was very relieved because I jump up and down during the meals. You show your child, you want this, you want drink, they want a dummy, they want this, they want that. So what happens is, do you need to make a beautiful? Your wife is serving the thing. I don't know, let's say she has wash. She goes into the kitchen to serve something. She eats a bit of something. Does she need to make a bracha? Shimon says no. But that's completely derech agav. Let's go back to the key phrases. So Bechlan says Shinu Mokim Ein Tzarich Levorich. We pass Shinu Mokim Tzarich. Rav Chisda came along with two hetei. That means we pass in Tzarich Levorich. The first hetei said the name of Rav Huna, by the way. The second hetei said in his own name. The first hetei said is only when you go from room to room, but from one corner to another corner, you do not need to make a new bracha. Right? That's very straightforward. So if you're eating at a kiddush, big room, you go from one room to another end of the room, you do not need to make a new bracha. That is the name of Rav Huna. We found the Beis is exactly the same, and the Gemara asks, why does Chis need to teach it to us? What's the answer? Why does Chis need to teach it to us if it's before Shabbaisa? Says, well, Chis never heard the Beis. I went through it quite fast. So Huna, we said the name of Huna. He never heard the Beis. Okay. The second hektish of Chis said in his own name was that when you start a meal for something which needs a bracha achroina, in its original place, then since you're always focused on your original meal, so for example, if I'm eating apples and I go to another room, I need to make a new bracha. If I'm eating cake or drinking wine or eating bread, I do not need to make a new bracha. Why? Because anyway, I need to go back to the original place. Since I need to go back to the original place, it's not considered a hesach hadas. I'm not switched off. I'm still involved in that eating, and therefore I have to go back. And since I have to go back, I do not need to make a new bracha. Now, the Rashbam is at great pains. Let's see the Rashbam's inside. Go time bit. By me, it's the fourth of the middle-sized lines, third to fourth. But She'ena tuche bocha chashuv if they ask, but the foshes rabbis. Atoch ein tzad bocha if you need to go back. The vaday kim the omad v'holach bocha macha midos zug mas dos v'achsud achiti. But tzarich bocha b'tchilas says Rashbam. Our dvoma to bocha lachem im krim and krim bocha chashuv if they ask one sich im krim and gain shiva saminim. This bocha bocha chas ben sholosh, which is called bocha the special bocha. Hoy v'le b'yachalem v'lach bocha macha listen that that's because the shino lach the bocha achsashten. Then nami is olach selevorech. Says the Rashbam. Umahocha shomino. Dod it's dami shocha v'shochach v'lei pirich v'shamo you have to go back. V'shuna minod rechat chel zeh v'bach v'mkeimoi. V'shiva saminim mari. Deke ke'en b'chas amoze v'chachrit v'chashvus amen shaloish. Let's see if you don't mind to see the Rashbam weiter. It's very interesting. The Rashbam says, Kvir kamahoda. Klima das dosu yishidu oichel achshu says dosu. V'tema mai yisvidu le Rabbi Yehuda mach b'ayse tiyuvta. Rabbi Yehuda came along and told us a very big chiddush. What was the chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda? Shouldn't make it selber. How can you say such thing? We have a Beis that's Tzarich Levorich. What was Rabbi Yehuda talking about? Does anybody remember? Which kind of food? Wine. Wine. What's the halacha of wine? You go back to the original place. So in fact, we actually do basket that. This unbelievable question on Rabbi Yehuda. Oh, so on the Gemara. The Gemara said Rabbi Yehuda said Ein Tzarich Levorich. The Gemara, yes you do. What do you mean, says the Rashbam? Rav Chisda told us that if it's a bracha chashuva, you don't need to. Vim Toima says Rashbam, V'amayis the Rabbi Yehuda nach Beis to you to Klitutzi Beis because Rav Chisda was into boch lach vim came in the Rabbi Yehuda stunden wirklich it's the boch like Klitutzi och. Says Rashbam, you can't answer that. Why? Rabbi Yehuda's stomach come out in the boch with the boch for chodova nechal. Rabbi Yehuda didn't specify wine. Since it didn't specify wine, he must have meant everything, including water, apples, anything. And furthermore says. So the Rashbam explains that Rabbi Yehuda indeed holds by everything Ein Tzarich Levorich. And the kasha is that we see that for this price that tzorich levorich. Or we could have answered he was about wine. No, Rabbi Yehuda should explain this. So now comes along Tosis, at the top Tosis on our page. And he brings down the Rashbam, and he gets very, very upset with the Rashbam for many different reasons. The main reason he gets upset with the Rashbam is that Rabbi Yehuda used the word yain. And since he used the word wine, so therefore, he can't really ask a kasha Rabbi Yehuda. He spoke about wine. And also,
No, so the kasha stands.
so there's a kasha on the Rashbam.
No, the Rashbam answered his kasha
Yes.
that it didn't mean only yang and everything, so then the kasha still stands.
Yes, but so the way Tosis understands, I'll tell you Tosis' way. Tosis holds that only by bread you don't need to make a new bracha, but by wine and shiva saminim you do need to make a bracha and you don't need to go back. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda, when he said wine is no good, and the Tosis asks many kashas, because if you remember, the whole previous sugya was making kiddush and shul, and then you go home. And the Rav and Shmuel, what did you gain? Rav Shmuel says kiddush, you could do kiddush. So the Shmuel says you didn't get anything. And the more both Rav and Shmuel said, you did yain lo yotza. If you go home, you have to make a new bracha on wine. But according to Rashbam, that wine is considered davar shetunu bracha achareim. So therefore, you don't need to make a new bracha when you get wine at home. So that whole sugya which says you did yain lo yotza, that you have to make a new bracha on wine is shelo alibet elchaso. So Tosis argues with Rashbam, and he says, V'chein halacha. Says Tosis, 6 lines from the end of Tosis. V'chein halacha. B'chol dover, sorry. Chutz b'pasu minim zeh, except for king. Shemechvish minim. Eizer vocha achim kemim shuk b'chitzor levoich b'em. V'shin v'ok b'en afilu chat Beis. Kemim miglav b'chad b'chid ha'hida. B'damina loi. Says Tosis, that only by bread and cake, by wine and by fruit, is not considered, and therefore, and then there's a Rif who holds that even by cake you don't need to go back. So you've got many different shitters where you need to go back. So this person called me and he said he'd been to Whitefield, so he's got one head to that where the cake you have to go back, and plus it's the shigig, therefore we add the two together. Okay. Says what? Now Agav, it's a very interesting. Whether you need to make a new bracha. We said it quite fast. You do need to make a bracha. So the Gemara asks the kasha. So the Shonim at great length. Who do we pass like? Do we pass like of Chisda of Shishis? Machlekes Shonim. We pass like of Chisda of Shishis. Okay, Meisvei. The whole next Gemara for over and onwards is going to discuss one brisa, and it's discussing a group of people that were sitting and eating, and then what happened was some of them left the room. But they were gathered together to drink wine. They lifted up, they uprooted themselves, and kala. And whenever we say uprooted, it means that what they were eating was a significant thing. If you're just drinking a bit of Coca-Cola, and you go out, you don't consider that uprooting yourself, because you never really sit to drink wine. Sometimes you sit down to have to drink a cup of wine, so it's called uprooting yourself. Okay. If somebody left behind. So you see that when they come back, they have to start from scratch. Why? Because never left anybody behind. We're talking about something which you require bracha afterwards, like bread or wine, a proper meal. We're talking about somebody who gathered together to eat a proper thing, either bread or wine. And it says, if not for the fact that they left somebody behind, what would it then be? They would have to make a new bracha, which is a vine, not like of Chisda, because of Chisda holds that when you're eating something which requires a bracha achroina b'mkoimoi, since it requires a bracha achroina b'mkoimoi, you're definitely going to come back to it. So if you don't eat kasher of Chisda. No, because the Chisda didn't mention that. You would have to say it. Man Tana Akiyos Kopesa Medalef. Who says this halacha? Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to have a long brisa, which is exactly this halacha. That this din, whether you need to have somebody there or not, is machlekes Tanakama Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you need to have somebody there. Otherwise, you need to make a bracha. According to Tanakama, whether not, and therefore the Chisda is going to have the Tanakama, the Tanya. Chabeim shemisubin. Chabeim. What's chabeim means, by the way? Who says that? Yeah, we say chaveim means tamidei chachamim. Why would we talk about tamidei chachamim? The Rabbi asked Kasha much later. He says, because it carries on that they went off to daven or to learn. So Pasha, when they go into the so you see clearly, like of Chista, that you do not need to make a new bracha. Omav Yehuda Med, v'mamoim zan shnichu sham mitzas chavim. But only sham mitzas chavim, kshen yotzit in the bracha l'mafreya, ukshen choizin in the bracha lechatchila. Rabbi Yehuda argues and he says, no, it depends if they left something behind. So it's a raya to of Chista. The Tanakam is like of Chista, because the Tanakam is exactly like of Chista. Now, if you're in the middle of a meal and you go off to another place, you do not need to make a new bracha. Why don't you need to make a new bracha? Because you're in the middle of a meal, which is an important meal. Says the Gemara, but from here it's a kash against Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan held that what? That you never need to make a new bracha, even if you're having apples and even if you're drinking water. Now, from this brisa, since it talks about okru agleim, we're obviously talking about an important meal, and therefore only that is considered that you don't need to make a new bracha. But if you're having a casual meal, then you would need to make a new bracha, which is not like Rabbi Yechanan who says that you never need to make a new bracha. Says, well, the Talmud, that's when you don't need to make a new bracha. If it's something which is a casual meal, you don't need to make a bracha. So it's a kash to Rabbi Yechanan, because according to Rabbi Yechanan, it makes no difference what you're eating. Either way, you do not need to make a new bracha. Says, well, you've already asked the kash, you've already disproved Rabbi Yechanan. What's the point of disproving him again? Says Gemara, no. It's good to have another kasha on Rabbi Yechanan. The Rashbam explains that when you have another kasha, then even if you manage to answer the first one, or you can prove that the first one was a mistaken brisa, corrupted brisa, you've got another answer. The Gemara says no. The truth Allah is that you never need to go back, because Rabbi Yechanan holds that you never need to make a bracha. Why talk about a proper meal? Why talk The Beis wanted to show us how far Rabbi Yehuda goes. That even in a meal where you're eating something substantial, we need to go back to make a bracha achrona. Nevertheless, only because you left somebody behind can you rely on the original bracha. But otherwise, you need to make a new bracha, even if you're having a substantial meal. But according to the Chachamim, it makes no difference whether you're having water, wine, or anything. According to Rabbi Yechanan, you never need to make a bracha. Says the Gemara, Tanya Kavasit of Chista, Chavim Shemisubinish Yain, V'oklu Agveim Mechozu Ein Seichun Avarich. You do not need to make a new bracha. So let's see the Rashbam how he paskens. Meal. Shomino Mishmaitin, it's 4 lines down of the widest lines of the Rashbam, towards the end of the line. Miu Shomino Mishmaitin, we learn from our sugya. Shinu Yain Ein Sorech Levorach B'Chasayayin Mevorach Hateva Meitiv. If you change wine in the middle of the meal, let's say you make Bor Priagofen, you start your meal, you make Kiddush, you make Bor Priagofen, you have one wine. And then you bring a different kind of wine, a white wine, a red wine, you do not need to make a new wine, a Bocha. But Teva Meitiv you do. Shinu moki b'shiva samin shnu b'chlachim imkeimu men sholish ken uichel b'ay zev v'chazav v'chl b'ay sacher kudish b'chachren uishachel b'ay zev v'lach shuk v'chazav g'mas tos b'ay sacher v'chol elu ein serich lachser v'tchila. Did you give a hoda? So if you go and eat cake or grapes or pomegranates and you go to another place and you want to come back, all these cases you do not need to make a new bracha. I was sharpers and mashkin. She ain't no mishiv saminim. She ain't sicher bochel achrin. Came on bocha b'bayzeh. B'choza bocha b'bayzeh. Achet tzorich levorich tchilo. So then you do need to make a new bracha. If you eat apples in one room, you go into another room, you have to take a new eights. If you go from one corner to another corner, you don't need to take a bracha. So the Rashbam summarizes the sugya. So from one corner to another corner, you do not need to make a bracha. From one room to another room, you do need to, unless it's something which is a bochach, which needs a substantial bochach. And as we pointed out, that according to the Tosfos, he disagrees with Rashbam regarding wine and regarding pomegranates and dates, and he said it's only regarding cake and bread. Okay. So there's a lot of halachas, but right. Let's see right. Going back to do you have to get a shape by wine? Is it the same machlokas? I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, it could be it's the same thing.
Well, it's
not substantial. Then
isn't it once, but that's why I have dollar. Some people
Eating the
sometimes
cake
don't have
after.
cake.
Yeah.
It's soft.
Yeah. This going back to the original sugya. People sitting down eating Erev Shabbos. Shabbos comes in. What's the din? If Shabbos comes in the middle of a meal, what's the din? Nachlekas who and who? Right. If Yehuda holds that what? What's Rabbi Yehuda hold? What's Rabbi Yehuda hold? You got to stop. Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to stop. Right. So again, you say Kiddush. You straight away have to bench because Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, like Toli said, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Shabbos comes in, you have to stop your meal and start a new meal. Make Kiddush first, yes. Tosis brings that those who have a girsa around Tosis on the previous stuff. If you look at the Rashbam himself, if you look at the Rashbam, 3 lines at the bottom, the Rashbam himself mentions that there's a second thing, but Tosis discusses it. Yes. Yeah. The question is to do with the fact that you can't drink the wine without Kiddush. On the other hand, you stopped your meal. So maybe the question is, since you stopped your meal, should you say benching first? Or since you don't? Yes, so that's a problem. The Real says, you can carry on eating a base all the time. Kof base on the base top of the page. Gomu kois vision. Gomu, when they finish eating, Gomu, when they finish eating, kois vision, mevoich lavichas amozin. So what happens is, according to our base, which we pass like, Shabbos comes in, you carry on eating, and then what do? You bench, and then you make Kiddush. We ask the question, what about Kiddush Mokum Suda? What's Tesa's answer? What about Kiddush Mokum Suda? How can you make Kiddush? You're not going to eat anything else.
It goes backwards.
That's it. Tesa's holds that you can make Kiddush on a previous meal. Fading more. What? Retroactive Kiddush. Amai. Oh. Amai fading more. Why can't you just use 1 cup of wine? Why do you have to have 2 cups of wine? That means make 1 cup of wine for benching and for Kiddush. We don't use 1 cup for 2 separate mitzvahs. We don't want to make mitzvahs as bundles because you don't want to bundle up mitzvahs. It looks like a tircha. It looks like you're just trying to get your head off it. So we don't do 2 separate things in one course. Somebody comes to Motzei Shabbos. We're going to have a whole sugya now, a nice, interesting sugya on the order of how to do things Motzei Shabbos. Yakda has Yavne. Yavne is the normal Motzei Shabbos. Yayin, Besamim, Ne, Havdalah. And we're going to have many different questions. What about if you're going to be eating? And you have to keep track of all the different shittas like the cheshbon of it. So somebody came in Motzei Shabbos. So voichal yayin makes a boch on wine, and then on the candles, vala besamim and besamim vakach im avdol ala kois and he says avdol. Is that how we do it?
No.
No. What do we do? No. This is a normal avdol. We do besamim before the neck. More later we'll ask the question. Here it says moed then besamim. We do besamim then moed. The person has only got 1 cup of wine at home. He eats his meal because he wants to eat a meal Motzei Shabbos. And then he makes Havdalah after he's eaten. I was waiting for something to ask me a question. Oh, that's the Gemara's question. Very good. The Gemara's question. You do 2 separate things. You're doing benching and Havdalah 1 cup. Very good. Which we just said you don't. And the Gemara answered, that's just the Gemara says, Ein lo shani. If a person doesn't have any more wine, he's got no choice, then he does 2 of them. It's like we don't do 2 things 1 case. But what? No, by benching and Kiddush, we don't do 1 cup unless the person has no other wine. Here about Havdalah, but the bigger question, how can he eat before Havdalah? He comes home, he hasn't made Havdalah. He realizes, I've only got 1 cup of wine. I'm going to eat. In those days, are you makpid? How many of you are makpid? Every time you bench, you're drinking a cup of wine. You do it on Shchedesh? Even without Zimun?
No, anytime Shabbos. No, only Zimun.
Only Zimun and Shchedesh.
Only on Pesach.
Shabbos as well, but during the week.
Only on Pesach.
Only on Pesach. Why only on Pesach?
Why not? Oh, unless you.
What I do is, I must admit, I swing. I mean, every so often I'm more machmir, every so often I'm less machmir. Moshe says,
Depending on the
Isn't
price
that
of
thing-
What?
Depending on the price.
Not eating out.
Ken haven't got an offer.
You don't have them.
Isn't that a thing?
Yeah,
though,
but
as
children-
well?
children
Isn't it-
see
doesn't it
that.
depend
We
on
don't-
like,
don't
you
you-
keep the
oh, I'm
fruit
shy.
juice on the table?
Well, see.
what's the question? I
Because
understand. Why wait till
I'm
the price?
just saying, so it's not negative.
Why?
You are Zimmerman. Well,
Ah.
I don't know if you've got.
But you meant to use a cup of wine every time you bench. That man's Zimun or not Zimun.
They used to do it even
On
without
your
Zimmer.
own.
They used to do it.
Yeah, they used to always drink a cup of
It was
wine.
more important than not eating.
That's right. Oh, that's the point I was trying to get to. Vega, what did you want to say?
That's more important than not
Yes,
eating
that's
$12.
Again, going back slowly, bit by bit, we've jumped a bit. A person comes home Motzei Shabbos and he realizes he's only got one cup of wine in his whole house. And he needs to make Havdalah and he wants to eat a meal. And when he eats a meal, he's going to bench. And he's going to bench, he's going to drink wine. And he's only got one cup of wine. What should he do? Says the Beis. He should wait until after benching and then do everything in one go. We're going to come back to this Beis a number of times. Fake Tosfos. What's going on over here? Tosfos says, Menichel Achar Mozon. It says 4 from the bottom. Hikshav Nissen. It's the van. You're not allowed to eat before Abdullah. More says, Bas Tovas. Bas Tovas means that maybe one Motzei Shabbos he came home and he didn't have any wine. So what did that maybe do? He went to bed hungry. He starved, he fasted all night. Why? He didn't have Abdullah, he had no choice, he didn't eat. So you see, how could he eat? With Teretz, the van answers, what are you doing? We're talking about somebody that started eating when it was Shabbos. He's eating, and then it becomes Nacht. And now he's about to bench. And suddenly he realizes, oh, you've only got one cup of wine. I need to make Abdullah. So he doesn't know what to do. Fake Torah says, what's the obvious cash on this Teretz?
No.
Well, that's what Beis says. You should bench and do after bench and then do Abdullah. The cash is the lashon of the Beis is Anichnas lebeisei Motzei Shabbos comes home Motzei Shabbos in binds. Fake Tosfos. He came home Motzei Shabbos. Mashma day. He's just starting his meal. And Tosfos asks another cash, which will depend a little bit on the Gemara later. The Gemara later says that it's a riot. Okay, we'll see. For more later, it's muchad like that. It says Tosfos that when a person has only one cup of wine in his house, he's stuck. What should he do? If he doesn't eat before Abdullah and he uses the wine for Abdullah, he won't be able to then bench on a kois. So for such a person, we allow him to eat before Abdullah, which Tali pointed out, a very important point from the Tosfos. That it comes out that when you're coming in Motzei Shabbos and you only have one cup of wine, and you really shouldn't eat before Abdullah, better to eat before Abdullah. And that way use a cup of wine for benching than to bench without a kois. There's a very interesting truth from Moshe that says that nowadays that people don't enjoy wine so much and things it's not necessary. I was once eaten by a Rav who liked Ribena. I never got used to the taste. And what's the word for it? Told me that his back pit, that if he's anyway got like I said, Ribena, orange juice on the table, he keeps it for benching and he benches on the case of Ribena. In fact, Mishpah talks about it. Chama Medina. Is Ribena not Chama Medina? What about orange juice? I don't know. Maybe you should use tea. Okay. So let's go through this slowly. We had a din that somebody who he comes Friday night. That's how we started off. Friday night he started the meal. He started the meal Friday afternoon. He carried on through Shabbos. Comes along Rabbi and says he uses 2 cups of wine. One for Kiddush, one for benching. Why not use the same cup for both? Says, well, we don't use one cup for 2 separate things. Yes, we do. By somebody who's Abdullah and benching, answers the Gemara that what? Ein lo shani. The Gemara, Yom Tov Shabbos. If Yom Tov is a Sunday, what do we do if Yom Tov is a Sunday? Yakna. Now, later the Gemara is going to say all these letters, Yakna, Kino, Yanhak. What do these letters stand for? Yain, Kiddush, Ne, Abdullah. So we see over here that we do all the Kiddush and the Havdalah on the same cup. Since he's not mentioning Shechianu, which is the only Yom Tov in the year you don't say Shechianu? Achron Shepesach. Every other Yom Tov you say Shechianu. Sukkot, first day, Sukkot, last day, Shavuos. The only Yom Tov is last days of Pesach. The Chadash Pesach was Kinon. The Chumadav Havalei Achilei Veleslei. A person's got nothing to eat when it comes to Shvi Shal Pesach. My father used to say this. Children, you're not allowed to ask for food on Shvi Shal Pesach because the Gemara tells a number of places, one of the places, that when it comes to Shvi Shal Pesach, people didn't have what to eat. Because it wasn't a new Yom Tov like Shmini Atzeres, and it wasn't like the beginning of Sukkot, beginning of Pesach, a person prepared food. Tesis actually mentions it very, very briefly. Tesis says, that what happens is, if you look at the bottom, the end of the Tesis to Isli, what happens is that a person doesn't have. So we're talking about Shvi Shal Pesach, he's got no wine. So therefore, that's why he did Yank Kiddush Ne'avdolah, because he's got no choice. I've got one. I paid the Gemara. No. Well, Yom Tovish and Isle, the first day Pesach he's got. Voma by Yakzana, Voma Yaknas. El Avdolah v'Kiddush Chodem Milsi, Birchas Amos v'Kiddush Trei Milininu. You can't compare Kiddush and Avdolah, which we do on one cup, to Kiddush and benching, or Havdalah and benching, which we don't do on one cup. So again, Havdalah and benching, we don't do on one cup. Kiddush and Havdalah, we do on one cup. Why? Because Kiddush and Havdalah is the same topic. Now, the Rashbam, tomorrow I'm going to stop over here because it's a new topic, the order. There's a very, very fascinating, you don't put it on one say, it's up to you. That the Rashbam asks a big question. In the whole of this sugya, we mentioned Yud, Kuf, Nun, Hey, Zayin, and all the different letters. There's one letter we've not mentioned, it's Beis, Pesachim. Oh, you noticed? Or you saw the Rashbam? Why do we do Pesachim? From Shabbos to Yom Tov. So why do we do Pesachim on Yom Tov? Shabbos to Yom Tov. That's the Rashbam asks the question. Says the Rashbam, we don't do it.
That's right.
Oh, so let's see the bottom, the second to bottom of Tesis because Tesis brings it all down. Instead of arguing, you can see what Tesis has to say. Second to bottom Tesis. On Yom Tov, you have an Neshama Yisrael. Because if you get in the Neshama Yisrael on Yom Tov, so why Motzi Yom Tov do not do Besamim to compensate for the loss of Besamim? Answers Tesis, don't have Neshama Yisrael. Warum mask Besamim should the Simchas Yom Tov Achille V'Shtiyam work with Besamim? Die Stammen in the Chilul Zayat HaMekadach. So got to Achlekes V'Shonim, do you have Neshama Yisrael on Yom Tov or not? The Rashbam says you do. Since you have Neshama Yisrael on Yom Tov, it doesn't matter. You don't need to make Besamim. You're right in the halacha that we don't say Besamim between Yom Tov, Shabbos and Yom Tov. The question is why? The Rashbam says we have Neshama Yisrael on Yom Tov. Tesis says we don't have Neshama Yisrael on Yom Tov. But why? Because you eat such a Geshmak Yom Tov meal, it compensates the Neshama like the Besamim. The Sfas Emes writes a very interesting point. Sfas Emes, and every Yom Tov I used to go to a certain shmuz there. So every Yom Tov he used to bring up this Sfas Emes again. That to bring the Rashbam that we have in the Neshama Yisrael. And if that's the question is, so why do we have the Samim Motzi Yom Tov? Says the Sfas Emes. Because on Shabbos, by of the nefesh, you've lost the spiritual in on the mabel. But on Yom Tov, you're not supposed to lose the Yom Tov. You're supposed to take the Yom Tov with you. What's V'hasiyenu? Loshen masa, a burden. V'hasiyenu, you're supposed to carry the Yom Tov with you. If you were to have the Samim Motzi Yom Tov, you'd be saying to yourself, I've lost the Yom Tov. So therefore, we're not going to mention Besamim. Tomorrow, we're going to go through all the different orders, and there's many different shittas. There's only 4 different things, and there is man, etc. And each time we have to work out why we have that order. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll do quite a few tastes in. Oh, there's another very, very interesting taste I missed out. Okay, it's the third taste on the page. Taste discusses why we have 2 different cups by Sheva Brachos and why we have 2 different cups under a chuppah. Tesis writes that by under a chuppah you should have 2 cups. By Sheva Brachos you don't need 2 cups. Because by a chuppah you have the ksuba, which is recited between the Kiddushin and the Nisuin. But by Sheva Brachos it's not necessary. So as Tesis, there are those who make it even by Sheva Brachos to have 2 cups. As far as I am aware, everybody does have 2 cups by Sheva Brachos, no? What?
Yeah,
But you don't need to. Tesis, you don't need to. But by a chuppah you do need to.